We continue now at the top of Daf Pei Dalet Amud Aleph in Meseches Nedarim. This is Nedarim Daf 84a. On the previous summit, the Gemara is discussing whether when a woman says she's taking a neder not to benefit, let's say from brios, from all people, does that include her husband or does that not include her husband? And that was Machlokas HaMoroim on the previous summit. And the Gemara continues, Eisvei Rava Rav Nachman. So Rava asks Rav Nachman the following question. The Mefarish says, Eisvei Rava Rav Nachman, Do Amar Baal Lav Bechlal Brios. So it was Rav Nachman who said on the previous summit that the husband is not included when the term brios is used. So Rava asks Rav Nachman, U Baal Lav Bechlal Brios. So is that really true, that the husband is not included when she makes a neder and she includes the brios, meaning all people? V'atanan, but we learned in a Mishnah, Netula ani min ha-Yehudim. Let's say she says that I am prohibited from the Jewish people in terms of having relations. So Yafir Chelko, so what the husband should do is he should annul his portion of the vow because he was also included in the vow. Utei Misham Shah, so then she can have relations with him. Utei Netula min ha-Yehudim, but she will be prohibited from other Jewish men. And so the Gemara now says, V'iyamr Baal Lav Bechlal Brio. So now if you say that the husband is not even included when she makes such a neder from all people, so Nidre Inoi Nefesh Ein V'yafer Law. So it should be considered Nidre Inoi Nefesh, and he should be able to annul it for her. Now the Ran over here has a slightly different girsa, which is easier to understand. The Ran's girsa is Eisvei Rava l'Rav Nachman Netula ani min ha-Yehudim she'asra hanoas tashmisham oleh. Again, she made it asr to have relations with her. V'yamrit Baal Lav Bechlal Brio. So, and if you're going to say that the husband wasn't included in that neder because he's not included in all of these people, so lama lo hafara. So the way the Ran understands it, the Gemara is asking very simply, why is hafara even necessary? Because the Mishnah says he should be made for his portion, and that way he can have relations with her. Why is that even necessary? Because he wasn't even included in the prohibition in the first place. In other words, the implication from the Mishnah certainly was that the husband was included when she said Netula ani min ha-Yehudim, and she prohibited relations with herself from the Jewish men. It seems to be from the Mishnah it was including her husband. And the Gemara answers, Liola mei malach, really I'll say to you, Shani hach, it's different over here in this particular Mishnah, to mucha milsa the al hatera ka asra nafsha, because it's obvious, because she's taking something that would have been mutter for her and making it asr, meaning she was already asr to all other men because she's a married woman. The only man that she was really permitted to at this point in time was her husband. So it's obvious in this particular situation when she said Netula ani min ha-Yehudim that she meant to include her husband. But in general, it could be that Baal is lav bechlal brios. And we will note over here the Ran does defend the girsa that we have in the Gemara. V'iko noschi de garsi says there are some nuschos that have the following girsa. V'yamrit Baal lav bechlal brios hu nidre inoi nefeshu. If you're going to say the husband is not included in the neder, so then it's a neder of inoi nefesh, and leifer law again, so then he should leifer law liolam, then he should be able to be made for it forever. And the Ran explains the girsa as follows, Vachi Perusha. If you have that girsa, the explanation is as follows. So if you're going to say that the husband was included within the neder, the husband was included again in that neder of Netula ani min ha-Yehudim, you could explain it as follows. That she's talking about relations when she says that. She's trying to make it asr to have relations with her husband just like everybody else. Now that would make sense that he only annuls his portion. And if, let's say, there is a divorce, so she's still going to be Netula min ha-Yehudim, she'll still be prohibited to others. Because this is just something that's between him and her. It has to do with their relationship, and he can't annul that part which is relevant to others. That's what we said earlier. But if you say that the husband is not included in brios, and therefore not included in this neder, when she says Netula ani min ha-Yehudim, the husband's not included, then what the Gemara is saying is it's impossible to say that she's talking about relations. Because she's already asked to have relations with others, because she's a married woman. And so therefore it must be what really Netula means, that it means to say that she cannot get benefit from their fruits. She can't have their produce. And if so, that's what the Gemara means. Nidre inoi nefesh inun. That's already a neder of affliction. And then he should be able to annul it forever. Because then the annulment should work whether for himself or whether for others. That's how you understand if you have this girsa. And we will note over here as well that if you have this girsa, the way to read the Gemara is Yofer la liolam, and there's a period after liolam, and you actually take out the words a malach. When we read it originally, we said liolam a malach, but here if you put the period after liolam, you take out the words a malach, and instead the Gemara answers shani hach. Again, it's different over here because it's clear that she's referring to the husband. This is what the Bach says: liolam shani hacha kein sarich lomar v'tevos a malach nimchak. You have to erase the words a malach because liolam is really going on the sentence before. And the Gemara continues at the two dots. The Mishnah said, Yechola lehanos beleket shechu peya. If she takes a neder not to benefit from people, she can still benefit from leket, shechu, and peya. Those are left for the poor, and they're considered ownerless. It's not benefiting from people. And the Gemara says, V'lo katani uva maiserani, but it does not say in the Mishnah that she's allowed to benefit from maiserani. V'atanya bebraisa uva maiserani, but it says in the Braisa that she is allowed to take maiserani, so it seems to be a contradiction between our Mishnah and the Braisa. And the Gemara says, Amar Rav Yosef says, Lokash, it's not difficult. Ha Rabbi Eliezer, ha Rabbanan. In one case, we're following the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer. In the other, we're following the Rabbanan. It's actually a machlokas tanoim, whether she can take maiser ani. And the Gemara explains, the Tanan, as we learned in a Mishnah, Rabbi Eliezer says, Ein adam tzarech likros shem al maiser ani shel demai. Let's say a person has demai, meaning to say a person gets produce from an Amoritz. So in general, by an Amoritz, you're not sure whether the Amoritz took off the proper maiser. So Rabbi Eliezer is saying when it comes to Maiser Ani, you don't need to worry about Maiser Ani. You don't need to designate any portion of the produce as Maiser Ani in a situation of Demai. And we'll continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Pei Dalid Amud Beis.